Hey guys, Justin Haywald here and Rob Handlery from GameSpot.com. We checked out BioShock, surprisingly, on iOS. Now this version of the game, maybe not the absolute best version. You got to play around with both the controller version and on the iPad version. What did you think about how the game controls overall and how it feels compared to the original?
Well, you first start off with just the iOS touchscreen, and it was difficult. And then you switch the controller, and not surprisingly, it's amazing. It completely makes the game playable. I, on the other hand, got the controller first, and then went right to the touchscreen, and just immediately said no in my mind.
Yeah, so I jumped into the game. The first thing I did was, I'll try it out. We were working on getting the controller working, and I died, immediately.
Yeah.
But playing with a controller, it feels like the regular game. The controls map to the mobile controller they're kind of tying in. It's not tied directly into the game, but you'll be able to get this controller that works with these kind of first-person experiences. Right. But BioShock, to me, it's a game that holds up, and I haven't played it in a couple years, but going back to it, I was like, I can't wait to experience this world again. I remember it being an immersive, crazy, dystopian future.
Right.
How did you feel about how the game looks?
Well, yeah, I played it actually also 2 years ago, and got through it and really enjoyed it. But then you see on the iOS, and you're losing things that you really need. In a game like that, you need the lighting, and there really isn't any lighting. It's just texture for iOS. Modeling is dumbed down. It's more simplistic. It's an iOS, you see and you go, oh, this is iOS.
No, it's an iOS game. You can't expect it to look as good as it is going to look on your PC. And so they had to make some things not look quite as good. The textures especially stand out. You walk in, you're like, this is an iOS game, but you have to make those concessions, and for me, I felt like I accepted that. To be able to play this portably, if that was something I wanted to do.
Right.
This still works. It's still the BioShock world.
It does. It still works, but it really comes back to am I playing this game comfortably?
So the controls on the iPad, you basically pick it up, and then I think this is the way it's going to work on the phone as well. No matter where you put down your left thumb, that's going to be controlling your character. And I thought that worked really well for it. Exploring the world and interacting with objects, all of your other commands are tied to your right thumb, basically, which led to a few problems in combat.
Definitely, and I'm actually glad we played on the hardest difficulty to see, can you get through it? And we're talking the first 10 minutes of the game, and it was basically impossible. But we're playing, and you got your movement on the left, and on the right you got look and everything else.
And it's easy to switch between your powers. You have your plasmid powers, of course, which are integral to BioShock, and you have your weapons. I felt it was easy to switch between those powers.
Right, and it is, but can I do these things simultaneously in a moment where, you got two guys basically shooting you up, and I need to rummage through some dead bodies and hopefully get some health, and what do I have to do? I have to basically stop what I'm doing, look down, then use another button to go through it. By the time you look up, you're already dead.
Yeah, in the heat of battle, when you're trying to both strafe and move around a guy at the same time, you kind of have to make a choice on, are you going to strafe or are you going to look up and down and try to really get your aim right on that guy's head?
Right.
And then when also you need to use a health pack, that's a different button entirely, right?
The health pack basically is the top left where your health icon is. You have to either, I would assume, stop moving to move up to push it, or do a kind of a diagonal crossover with your right hand, and then again be able to look or use any kind of weapon. If you have to stop what you're doing in any moment for an FPS to basically gain health, that's going to be a major fault.
And so speaking of the game's other control limitations, I think jump was one of the things that was missing.
Right, they completely took that out. For reasons being, I'm not sure.
Well, it's not a Mario game. It's not like you need to jump to get around. There's not shells coming at you.
And then also there's another control problem that I was a little scared of, was basically one direction of filtering through your weapons. So if you wanted to, shotgun someone and then switch back to an assault rifle, you got basically to go through the whole cycle in order to get to whatever desired weapon you want.
And what we saw is an unfinished build of the game, so those are potentially things they could fix in an update that would make the UI a little bit easier to go through. But from what we played, there was one direction that you could cycle through all of your weapons, and as that weapon list grows, that could be kind of problematic in the heat of battle. So this is going to be a premium game. We don't know exactly how much it's going to cost. We'd probably assume at least $15.
20, yeah.
And I think one of the problems with a game like this is that BioShock is something you can get really cheap, and that you've been able to get really cheap in all these bundles for the BioShock series.
For what? It was $9, $6 earlier this year?
it's an interesting experiment to say the least, and I think it speaks to an interesting future where 2K might be bringing some more titles over in the future, and I do like the controller. Maybe not something I would carry around personally, but it definitely makes playing these iOS games, playing these full experiences, these full first-person shooter games, a lot more manageable. But that is a surprise announcement. BioShock coming to iOS, and if you want to read more about it, stay tuned to GameSpot.com.